Chapter 587. Hello, are you back in Bing City now? After picking up the phone, she found that Jiang Hai's voice was very enthusiastic. Qi Li was stunned for a moment, but after a moment she felt a little happy in her heart. It seems that her efforts will be rewarded. Then she asked Jiang Hai, "Well, I'm back. I just finished cleaning up the room." Hearing Qi Li's words, Jiang Hai also said to her, "Oh, I see. Then you open the door. I'm downstairs. I'll go up immediately." Hearing that Jiang Hai was indeed in Bing City, Qi Li was relieved and said to Jiang Hai. When he heard her words, Jiang Hai was stunned. Downstairs? What the hell? But at this time, Qi Li had already hung up the phone. Because they were very close to Jiang Hai's phone, Ai Xiaoxi and Feng Yunxian also heard the content of the phone call clearly. The three of them looked at each other and couldn't help but feel a little confused. Let's take a look. After speaking to the two women, Jiang Hai sat up from the pile of fragrant meat, walked to the door and opened the security door. Sure enough, as soon as the security door opened, he heard the sound of high heels clicking on the floor in the corridor. As the sound of high heels slowly approached, Qi Li's unchanging office lady outfit appeared in front of Jiang Hai. "You are really here." Seeing Jiang Hai open the door, Qi Li couldn't help but show a smile on her face. Then she quickly walked upstairs, but when she walked to the door, she found that there was more than one person in Jiang Hai's room. In addition to him, Ai Xiaoxi and Feng Yunxian were also there. When she saw them, Qi Li's face couldn't help but stiffen. "You are also here." Looking at the two people in the room, Qi Li reluctantly smiled and said to them, "Come in and talk. What are you standing here for?" Hearing Qi Li's words, Jiang Hai didn't feel anything bad. He directly brought her a pair of slippers and let her in. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Qi Li's body trembled for no reason. This seemed to be the first time Jiang Hai took the initiative to invite her to his private space. Although there were two other women in this space, this was indeed the first time. Qi Li was usually full of the aura of a queen. However, she had always remembered these small details clearly. She didn't hesitate for too long in the face of Jiang Hai's invitation. She directly took off her pair of black high heels and stepped on Jiang Hai's slippers for the first time as she walked in. When she walked in, Jiang Hai didn't feel anything, but the competition between the three women had already begun. "Did you guys come back together? When did you guys come back?" Sitting on the sofa, Qi Li seemed to ask casually. "I came back early. Jiang Hai and Xiaoxi just came back today." Hearing Qi Li's words, Feng Yunxian glanced at Ai Xiaoxi, who was already a little confused, and said with a smile. She was going to rely on Ai Xiaoxi to compete with Qi Li. Now, on one side is Qi Li, who he is about to solve the knot in his heart, and on the other side is Feng Yunxian and Ai Xiaoxi. Jiang Hai is also a little tangled. "Don't worry, if you really want to come back tonight, then come back." Sitting in the car, looking at Jiang Hai's constipated expression, Qi Li's heart was a little lost, but she still said to Jiang Hai, "Forget it, I'll listen to you tonight, but tomorrow you have to go out with us." Shaking his head, Jiang Hai threw such thoughts out of his mind, then looked at Qi Li and said with a smile, "I have to go together?" Listening to Jiang Hai's words, Qi Li couldn't help but be a little confused. "Is this okay?" "Of course you have to come together. Tomorrow the four of us will go out and play together." "Well, let me think about what I want to play. Let's go to the amusement park." Looking at Qi Li's surprised and puzzled eyes, Jiang Hai said with certainty, and then he began to arrange where to go tomorrow. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Qi Li couldn't help but chuckle. "Hey, are you very young now? Do you want to go to the amusement park?" Hearing Jiang Hai mention this place, Qi Li couldn't help but ask. "Then where do you think we should go if we don't go to the amusement park?" Hearing Qi Li's words, Jiang Hai shrugged. "Well, let's go to the amusement park." After thinking about it, Qi Li really didn't know where the four of them would go together, so she listened to Jiang Hai. Lobster, abalone, sea cucumber, king crab, tuna, salmon, grouper, dragon crab, plus the beef provided by Jiang Hai. All of a sudden, Qi Li found that it was just around the corner for her to dominate the high-level catering industry in the capital. "If you want to go, you are welcome at any time." Hearing her words, Jiang Hai smiled. Although Qi Li may be a little embarrassed when she sees Aphrodite and the others, if she wants to go, then Jiang Hai won't mind. "Okay, but it's already November now. There is nothing fun to go there. When will you fish?" Hearing what Jiang Hai said, Qi Li also seriously thought about it. In fact, to be honest, she wants to go with Jiang Hai now. But the problem is that she can't, because the Qi family still depends on her to helm it. Now that she goes to Jiang Hai, it means that she has to give up control of the Qi family, which she can't agree to. Wuxia people and foreigners have a little essential difference. That is the desire to control. For example, if a foreigner establishes a company, shares or something, they must firmly hold it in their hands, but for the operation and management of the company, they are more inclined to find a professional manager or someone they cultivated themselves, give him a certain proportion of dividends, tie this person to their own chariot, and let him manage the company. For example, Walton, who is very familiar with Jiang Hai, is now the Walton family's Walmart, managed by an outsider. But the people in China are different. When a person in China establishes a company, he must be in charge of it himself. When his control is over, even if his son or daughter is a waste, a prodigal or a moron, this company will definitely be passed on to his child. He will not find a manager and give out some of his due dividends. More than 95% of the enterprises in China are all family businesses, and the Qi family is the same. If he wants her to give up, she will think about it later. At least for now, it is impossible. Probably in March, April or May where I am. You have to ask my fisherman for the specific time. Last year, when Jiang Hai was raising fish, he had heard that it would take at least a year to raise these fishes. If 1 year wasn't too long, then it would take 2 years. However, they didn't think that Jiang Hai had something to do with spiritual qi. So, these fish raised for half a year are not smaller than the fish raised for 1.5 years by others. If they are raised for another half a year, it will be almost the same as the fish raised for 2 or 3 years by others. When the time comes, there will be no problem at all. Okay, I will call you in advance when the time comes. I will definitely go when the fish are released. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Qi Li said seriously. At this time, the car slowly entered Qi Li's neighborhood. After parking the car in front of Lu Li's villa, Jiang Hai also got out of the car with some things. At least, Jiang Hai took a shower like this. In less than 10 minutes, Jiang Hai had already come out, but when he came out, he found that Qi Li had already changed her clothes. At this time, Qi Li had already changed from the almost unchanging office lady clothes and changed into pink pajamas. But this pajama seemed to be a little too small. Not only was there a huge V shape on the top, but the bottom of the pajamas only covered the bottom. The length of the hem barely covered her underwear. Her 2 straight, slender long legs were exposed in front of Jiang Hai. Coupled with Qi Li's pretty good looks, Jiang Hai once again shifted his gaze. Seeing Jiang Hai coming out, Qi Li greeted him with a smile and looked at Jiang Hai and said, "You are done showering. You take a shower?" When Jiang Hai heard Qi Li's words, he didn't dare to look at her now. Jiang Hai bypassed Qi Li and went to the sofa next to him. He didn't dare to sit on the bed, so he just watched TV. Qi Li looked at Jiang Hai's reaction and chuckled. She walked into the bathroom and hummed while taking a shower. Although Jiang Hai's eyes were watching TV, his ears heard Qi Li's humming and the sound of water. To be honest, it was quite torturous, but fortunately, Qi Li didn't take too long. About 20 minutes later, she came out of the bathroom. Jiang Hai glanced at her unconsciously and couldn't help but feel his heart beating faster. At this time, although Qi Li was still wearing pajamas, it was obvious that she had removed the vest and underpants that were supposed to be under the pajamas. This scene was a bit fierce. Chapter 590. Is there anything good on TV? Looking at Jiang Hai's slightly sluggish eyes, Qi Li slowly walked over. While wiping the water droplets on her hair, she climbed onto the bed casually. Under Jiang Hai's gaze, she sat cross-legged and looked at the TV in the distance. At this time, under Jiang Hai's gaze, Qi Li's 2 points and the forest below were completely visible, but she didn't seem to care at all. I don't think so. To be honest, Jiang Hai really didn't have any intention of watching TV at this time. He just turned on the TV casually because he didn't know what to do. If there's nothing good to watch, then let's sleep. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Qi Li tilted her head and looked at Jiang Hai with a smile. Hearing what she said, Jiang Hai also nodded. Come up and sleep. Seeing Jiang Hai nod, Qi Li also patted the position next to her and said to Jiang Hai, "Forget it, I'll just sleep on the sofa for a night." Hearing Qi Li's words, Jiang Hai gently pushed his glasses and took a deep breath. It was better to be calm at this time. Sleep on the sofa? Are you afraid that I will eat you? Really, you are not cute at all. You are my husband, do you know that? Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Qi Li suddenly said to Jiang Hai. Hearing Qi Li's words, Jiang Hai couldn't help but be speechless. And the most important thing is, if my mother knows that you are sleeping on the sofa, wouldn't we be exposed? After hesitating, Qi Li looked at Jiang Hai and said faintly. After that, she lowered her head. She didn't say such words. Well, okay. Looking at Qi Li's appearance, Jiang Hai's head was also a little confused. He didn't think about it. He was sleeping on the sofa. How could Chi Li's mother know? But at this time, there was no such thought in his mind. Inexplicably, he turned off the TV and then lay on the side of the big bed with his clothes on. Do you sleep with your clothes on? Leaning her head next to Jiang Hai's ear, Chi Li hugged Jiang Hai from behind, and then whispered in his ear. Hearing Chi Li's words, Jiang Hai didn't know what to say. I heard that sleeping in level 1 is very good for a person's body, but I used to live alone. I was really afraid that if something happened, I wouldn't have a place to escape. But now, I have you by my side, so I want to give it a try. Seeing that Jiang Hai didn't speak, Chi Li whispered in a low voice. Are you really ready? To be honest, if a woman threw herself into his arms like this, Jiang Hai would definitely do it first, but the woman behind him was Chi Li, so Jiang Hai had to suppress this thought. After taking a deep breath and calming down the anxiety in his heart, Jiang Hai said to Chi Li, What is there to prepare for? I am your wife, you are my husband, Isn't it normal to do this? Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Chi Li hugged Jiang Hai even tighter because she could hear that Jiang Hai was still hesitating. His wife is so beautiful, does it matter who is right and who is wrong? You say this as if Feng Yunshan and Ai Xiaoxi are not beautiful. Hearing their words, Jiang Hai curled his mouth and said with disdain. When they heard what Jiang Hai said, they were stunned again. Indeed, when they saw Ai Xiaoxi the day before yesterday, they were stunned. When they saw Feng Yunshan yesterday, they were also stunned. These three are rare beauties, but now they are all taken by Jiang Hai, this pig. Ai, it's intolerable. There are some things that can't be envied. Let's go. Looking at the brothers around him, Fu Yuan sighed helplessly and continued to give out candies and cigarettes. Not long after all the candies and cigarettes were given out, it was almost 8 o'clock. Anyway, it was an auspicious time. Jiang Hai didn't look at the specific time. The team lined up and started to set off. The first car was naturally Chi Li's Ferrari 488. Jiang Hai sat in the front passenger seat. They followed the video car all the way to the front. After about half an hour, they arrived at the woman's home. This time, Jiang Hai didn't bring Chi Li up, because if something really happened, it would be troublesome. So they just went up, knocked on the door, gave out red packets, looked for shoes and so on. After everything was done, they put on the new shoes for the bride, went downstairs, took some photos and recorded some videos. After that, they got into the wedding car and went to the place of the ceremony. When they arrived at the scene, most of the things were already done. The only thing left was the ceremony. Jiang Hai and the others didn't need to do anything. Huang Yunfei's two cousins had already prepared the fake wine. At the wedding, the bride and groom had to toast each other, and this wine was not real wine 90% of the time. Of course, it didn't rule out that some people had a high alcohol tolerance, so when they drank, they used real wine. Huang Yunfei had a good alcohol tolerance, but he wasn't going to use real wine. The wine was a bottle of white wine. After the white wine was poured out, the bottle would be stained with the smell of white wine. Then mineral water was poured in. There was a trace of alcohol smell, but it didn't have any alcohol content. Jiang Hai also had an important task, which was to sit next to Chi Li. If someone saw that Chi Li was too beautiful and had bad intentions, it would be troublesome. So, it was better to let her husband, Jiang Hai, sit there and watch. Moreover, Chi Li didn't know anyone here, so it was still very awkward to sit there. Sure enough, with Jiang Hai sitting here, although there were a lot of men looking over, none of them dared to come over. The two also chatted casually. The atmosphere was good, but Jiang Hai could see that Chi Li was a little absent-minded. What's wrong? Looking at Chi Li, Jiang Hai asked strangely. This was not like the Chi Li he knew. It's nothing. When they were about to arrive, he called Ai Xiaoxi and Feng Yunshan. After the two went downstairs, they got in the car. But as soon as they entered the car, they felt that the atmosphere was a bit wrong. In the past, Jiang Hai and Ai Xiaoxi would communicate with each other in the car, but the communication was mainly through words. But this time, after they got into the car, they found that Chi Li was touching Jiang Hai. Seeing this scene, the two women couldn't help but be stunned. What the hell is this? What are we going to eat? Seeing someone come in, Chi Li was not very happy, but she still turned her head and asked Ai Xiaoxi and Feng Yunshan behind her. Hearing her words, the two women felt even more strange. In the past, Chi Li was just like a strong woman. Her words and actions were swift and decisive. She was not like the current Chi Li. Not only was her body soft, but her voice was also a little delicate. This was not the Chi Li they knew. Ugh, Director Chi, are you sick? Looking at Chi Li, Feng Yunshan asked strangely. What illness? Hurry up, what are we going to eat? Hearing Feng Yunshan's words, Chi Li couldn't help but roll her eyes at her. and then continued to ask. Hearing that Qili seemed to be a little better, Feng Yunshan was temporarily relieved. Whatever you want to eat, Jiang Hai can order it. Glancing at Jiang Hai, Feng Yunshan said. To be honest, she didn't know what to eat. Then let's go eat casserole. After thinking for a while, Jiang Hai suggested to the three women beside him. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, the three women first thought for a while and then nodded. Speaking of which, they haven't eaten this for a while. The so-called casserole, full name is casserole pancake, may be a specialty of the north. Because Jiang Hai didn't go to many places in China, he didn't know much about it, but it is very likely to be in the northeast. The way to eat it is to put soup in a casserole just like a normal soup pot. Of course, the soup pot in Bing City also needs to add seasonings, which is different from the soups in the south. In the south, people will drink the original taste of the soup. At most, they will add some salt, because they feel that too much seasonings will destroy the original taste of the ingredients. But in the north, they will add a lot of seasonings to make the soup taste what they like. This is the difference between the north and the south. Bing City's casserole also has seasonings. There are all kinds of casseroles: mutton vermicelli, spinach, beef, tofu balls, braised meatballs, steamed meatballs, etc. This soup pot is complete with soup and vegetables. The staple food is rice or pancakes, but basically, pancakes are the main food here. The pancakes are crispy, especially when they are just made. The outside is very crispy but the inside is very soft. It's really delicious when you bite into it. At this time, after they entered the house, they unconsciously tightened their bodies and looked at everything around them. Seeing their reaction, Jiang Hai also chuckled. It was quite good to show them his power. Okay, let's serve the dishes. When everyone was seated, Bernice also shouted towards the kitchen. Then Aphrodite and the others went to the kitchen and began to serve the dishes that had been prepared long ago. Although these dishes were not all made by Little Ye, they were almost all guided by Little Ye. Her craftsmanship was not too bad. As soon as the first dish was served, Huang Yunfei's eyes widened. Because the first dish was a huge Boston lobster. Although they saw Fu Yuan showing off in their circle of friends before, it was the first time they saw it in real life. Looking at that huge lobster, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. This thing, how heavy is it? It's more than 20 jin. Pointing to the lobster in front of him, Huang Yunfei said with a trembling voice. He is a rich man and he has basically eaten everything. After all, those equipment dealers, pharmaceutical representatives and the like, in order to let them use their things, naturally they have to treat them, eat, take a bath, whatever the dragon is, and the quality is quite good. So he has eaten lobster before, but such a big lobster, let alone eat it, he has never even seen it before. This one is 5 jin in total. Hearing Huang Yunfei's words, most of the people at the dinner table were a little confused. After all, he spoke Mandarin, but Bernice, Little Ye, Delina, and Marion could still understand him. So Bernice said, answering his doubts. Hearing Bernice's words, Huang Yunfei couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. 5 jin, that is to say this lobster is 37 jin? 37 jin. It's not 5 jin. Thinking of this, he immediately took out his mobile phone and began to take pictures. Of course, except for him, the others will not be polite. Such a big lobster, if they don't take pictures of it, they won't be able to sleep at night. Jiang Hai, you are too polite. Such a big lobster, my God. After the shooting, Su Wei awkwardly said. They came here to play, but they didn't come here to take advantage of Jiang Hai. Although they said that Jiang Hai would take care of the food and drink, but Jiang Hai gave them such a big gift, which made them somewhat unable to sit still. How much would this thing cost? It's okay. Although the size of this lobster is not small, I still have a lot of it. At least I can't finish it. Looking at Su Wei and the others who were a little embarrassed, Jiang Hai said with a smile. He does have a lot of these things. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, the people here couldn't help but sigh with emotion. What a terrible guy. However, before they could react, the second dish was served. Once they saw it, they couldn't stay calm anymore. He turned back to the kitchen and took out a box of cold beer. Jiang Hai didn't know what to say. He went back to the kitchen and took out a box of cold beer. Wow, Jiang Hai, you are so generous. How can there be no beer in such a beautiful scenery? Looking at the beer, Fu Yuan ran over with a smile, picked up a bottle of beer, opened it with a lighter and then raised his head to drink. But he was stopped by Jiang Hai. He was drinking clear beer. This kind of beer was very light and refreshing, but the alcohol content was not small. And drinking this kind of beer, in addition to being cold, it was best to add some lemon juice. The taste was quite good. The last time he came, although Fu Yuan also drank this kind of beer, Jiang Hai didn't drink it at that time, let alone him. This was also something he learned after going to the Caribbean Sea. Seeing Jiang Hai cut a lemon and then squeeze a little lemon juice into it, Fu Yuan shook the bottle with some doubts and then took a sip. People in Bing City liked to drink beer, and so did Fu Yuan. As soon as the beer entered his stomach, Fu Yuan's eyes lit up. "Why is this wine so delicious?" Fu Yuan asked curiously as he looked at the wine bottle in front of him that was written in a foreign language. "Of course, otherwise I wouldn't drink this kind of thing." Hearing his words, Jiang Hai also laughed.